Okay, awesome. Well, it looks like we're recording now, so I'll give it a few minutes before everybody's on, and then we'll start introducing ourselves. Yep, I can see the participants coming in now. Great. Give it a few more, like 30 more seconds. Funny watching that just tick up, clock right up. All right, well, I guess I'll start with some few introductions here. So welcome everybody to our panel today on what influencers really want. I'm Becca Barkey and I'll be moderating this panel. I am the Director of Talent at Socialite, and today I have with us some of our Socialite talents that will be chatting with us. We have Sonia Peck, who is a fashion blogger who focuses on sustainability in the fashion and beauty space. We have Kay Bassey here, who's a fashion and beauty blogger based in LA and also manages a full-time job in medical sales. And then we have Anthony Urbano, who's one of our Socialite OG signs, and he's a fashion blogger in New York who also recently developed the Mask Fund. So I'm sure we'll touch on all the exciting things that everyone's working on today. Yeah, so our panel's on what influencers really want in this ever-changing landscape. It's especially this year, there's been a lot of changes. So really excited to chat with everyone about this. As a quick intro, I'd love to hear from each of you on what your focus is of your content on your platforms, which platforms you use, and if the mix of social platforms has changed over like the past year. So let's have Sonia kick it off.
All right, hi guys, my name is Sonia Peck. I work in sustainability and fashion and beauty, and I also work on policy and sustainability in fashion and beauty. My main content is on Instagram. I use Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, Snapchat. I use it all. Facebook. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how like social media, you just have to like go with the trends of everything, you know. Now you're like starting to do TikTok videos, and I don't do the dancing videos, but I just share sustainability. Like, I mean, I did rip my jeans dancing one time, so then I did a video on how I repaired my jeans. So so
love that. Great. Let's go with Kay.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Kay Bassey. My content focuses on mostly fashion and beauty, and really just building a community where we're just focusing on bettering ourselves day after day. I also share a lot about my animals, which is like a really big passion to me, like talking about like rescuing animals, and also just like really focusing on sustainability in the fashion and beauty space. So yeah, that's really what I focus on. And initially I actually really started from working on my blog and Instagram, but as time has gone on, obviously video content is becoming a lot more relevant today. So right now my focus is more on like YouTube and TikTok, which has been super fun because it just feels really organic and authentic right now. Yeah,
it's really crazy how that changes from reading blogs every day to now consuming as many videos as possible.
Exactly. It's so fun though.
Yeah, exactly. And Anthony, how about you?
Hi guys, I'm Anthony Urbano. My Instagram is Antonio, and I focus on menswear and lifestyle. And it's funny because I actually started on one of the platforms no one uses anymore. I started on Tumblr, and then I switched to a blog, but now most of my content is on Instagram. I just started using TikTok. I know it's kind of late, they're trying to ban it, but I just started getting TikTok and Reels, and yeah, mostly Instagram, but I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, I miss Tumblr so much. That was way back in the day when I even started a blog.
Yeah.
So it was a good platform.
I still use Tumblr, but not for blogs.
Yeah, I use Tumblr too, Tony. Like.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, I think, you know, Kay, especially for you where, you know, animals are really your passion. How do you weave that into your content? I think you do such a really interesting job, especially with all the exotic animals that you work with. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, it's just coming from a place of being authentic and really just sharing my most authentic self. starting off, especially in the fashion and beauty space, it's so easy to, well, especially in the beginning, I would hear a lot of people being like, well, how do these go together? They don't really go together. But I think for me, for my content, it's really important for me to just be super authentic and show that you can be two different things. You don't have to fit into a cookie cutter structure of what people want you to be. So yeah, I mean, and I love sharing that message of like sharing my rescue animals and the story behind all of it, just like I'm passionate about.
Yeah, if anybody likes snakes, Kay has some of the most beautiful snakes weaved into her content. It's really remarkable and cool to see. And it's a differentiating factor. I love that. And Sonia, for you with sustainability and especially everything you're doing Plus One Vote right now, how do you weave that in with your channel currently?
Well, that's a really great question. But I've been kind of championing sharing my passions with brands and kind of just like telling them, because I work with a lot of NGOs, I work with the UN, I'm a Remake ambassador, I work with a youth foundation that just is a digital educational platform called Find Your Grind. But with Plus One Vote, it's been really great because obviously in sustainability, when you're talking about climate action, you're talking about fashion, and you're talking about like the impacts of waste and everything in the fashion industry, and how can we combat that. So it's really interesting discussion because you combat that with voting, you combat that with policy, and that's what kind of got me into policy, which is all really exciting to me. Now we're working with senators, we're working with Congress people, and I tie that into my content. I'll make like funny videos. I happen to think I'm really hilarious, but I kind of try to get it to the audience in a fun way. If it's like, oh, this shirt, obviously this shirt is like an old vintage piece, but like I just try to get it maybe doing a TikTok video where somebody else I'm talking about voting, or just like getting the content, the beefy content to consumers that so it's graspable. Like I don't think that everyone can relate to a stimulus bill, but they definitely can relate to clothing policy and kind of like beauty laws and things like that.
You definitely make it approachable, and that's what I love. Yeah, that can be scary big stuff. And Anthony, how about you? What are some of your passions and how do you weave that into your content?
I think during the pandemic, one of the biggest things I started working on was the mask fund. So me and one of my friends, also a fellow influencer, we felt really passionate about getting nurses and doctors PPE. I have a lot of family and friends, like my mom works in the hospital, and a lot of friends are nurses. So it was something that was really important to me. It was very scary. We didn't know what to do, like how we could help. So we took it upon ourselves and used our influencer friends to help raise money. And now we work with a whole network of PPE crowdsourced fundraisers, and we partner with them. We have a mask engineer, we take mask samples just to make sure everything's up to code, and we get nurses that need help, masks, and just trying to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that flows right into our next question about how you guys use your platforms to bring about social changes and fight for your values. And I think for all of you guys, you've never felt this obligation to do it. It's really been an intuitive thing. But with, the changes in the last few months and how Instagram's kind of shifting to this place where we can talk more freely about the social issues that are going on, what are kind of some of your thoughts on that? And, how do you balance that sense of purpose, but also wanting to entertain people on this platform that used to be a little bit more frivolous back in the day?
Should I start?
Yeah, you go for it.
So the way that I have kind of incorporated that with like change, like impacting my audience, well, we work with like as I mentioned, congressmen and men and women and senators, and so just in California, there was an SB 1399 bill that came out that was like for the garment workers' wages, for them to have fair living wages. And so a bunch of us just started posting about it, and it started getting a lot of traction. Bigger blogs started posting about it. My dog says hi. And so bigger blogs started posting about it, and then it actually didn't get through to Governor Newsom signing it, but it's definitely going to come back in the spring for the Assembly and the Senate to kind of review again. But stuff like that, getting the audience just kind of aware of that in New York City, as far as like with +1 vote, we actually started posting about the it was automatic voter registration. So it was the end of last year. It was like Q3, we started posting about that. And then Congress people, if you post about things, they're like, oh, well, I guess people actually care about this, so we should push this legislation. So the automatic voting registration in New York passed. It won't be liable now, but the next voting midterm elections, it'll be in place. So things like that, just seeing things like that, and I'm just like, wow, we're collectively together when we decide to do something is very powerful.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Kay, did you have something to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, like, I'm from a very diverse upbringing. So I'm Nigerian. I was born in Canada, raised in Europe. So for me,
Oh, wow.
diversity has always been such a big factor that in my life, just like being around different cultures and different experiences. That's always been something that I've been passionate about and that I've enjoyed about my upbringing. So it's just natural for me and organic to be able to share that. And for me, it's not so much just having an obligation as to just feeling like it is the person that I am, and being able to put that out there and share a positive message of like love and inclusion, and like we're all on this planet together. We should just continue working together to make this world a better place. And I think just like really leading with that message every day is something very important. So it just comes naturally. And especially now at this time, I feel like there's no light shown even brighter on like some social aspects that have happened in society. So I think even now I feel more of I would say like maybe more of an obligation, or more of like a responsibility to ensure that I'm putting that message out there, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Anthony, anything to add?
Yeah. No, I feel like in the beginning, I've always used my platform as like a means of distraction, something fun, talk about my fashion. And I'm kind of shy when it comes to talking about issues, but I feel like lately I've gained the confidence seeing other bloggers post about it. I haven't always been vocal about different things, but not that I don't care about them, but now is the first time I actually feel confident in saying what I want to say. So I do feel that social obligation to kind of tell your followers and use your platform to preach a message that you believe in, which is something I've tried to incorporate more. And I also think you guys at Socialite really have helped me to do that, because a lot of times you'll prompt us with things like, who wants to talk about mental health, or who wants to talk about voting? And that has really given me the confidence to kind of speak up more and just follow the example of other influencers that are doing a great job at it. So I think this year especially, I've definitely started speaking up about what I believe in different issues across the board. So
yeah, I mean, it can definitely be a little scary at first when you don't know how your audience is going to react, and the comments, it is so quick to be like, what did they think of this? And I feel like you probably have all seen very positive reaction. And if you don't, then you don't want those followers anyways on your channel, because they don't maybe understand what you're trying to say. So I think that's really interesting. But moving on to more of the brand side of things, and actually, you know, partnering around everything that's going on now, you know, what really makes it appealing to work with them? I think, you know, Sonia in particular, I know some of the partnerships you've done where we can really easily tie it in with all of the issues you're working on, and I'm sure that's appealing to you, but, you know, like what else, you know, makes you want to work with a brand?
Well, I think now more than ever, it's like transparency, right? You know, we see with the cotton in China, with the Uyghurs, you know, 50 brands or something tied on to that list for the from the Uyghur human rights. And so it's just like, at the end of the day, we want to see transparency in brands. We want to see diversity. We want to know what's going on their team. And because that directly correlates with how they're going to identify with people, with the consumers.
Right.
I want to know what a CEO's thinking. I want to know all these things. And I think also that connects the brand and the influencer, and the brand and the consumer. And so, yeah, transparency in that, and also brands doing their research on what is happening in their supply chain, you know, making sure that people on the planet are getting taken care of in a good way, you know. So I think, yeah, that's what I look for in brands when I work with them.
Yeah. And just to even like add on that even more, just like a brand having a really good purpose and a strong mission statement, and having plans and goals, and like actually sharing that, ways that they can actually give back. I think those are really good things that people are looking for. I think now, especially, obviously we have the internet, it's very easy to do research on a brand and see like, where is your dollar going? Like as a consumer today, we have so much more power, a lot more than we did like decades ago. So I think it's so important that brands are really focused on having purpose, a positive purpose, and they stand for things like self-acceptance, like inclusivity, diversity, and you know, just like making sure that they're very ethical in all their practices. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, and these are all questions we're asking now. So of the brands as your managers too. But sorry, Anthony, what were you saying?
No, I agree with both of them. And I also think it's important for a brand that understands you as a creator, someone that does their research like you said, and really knows what you're about before they hire you. So that way they value your input and trust that you know your audience.
Right.
On a project with a brand, and it wasn't about the follower count. It wasn't about the engagement. Right. It was about being an organic fit with the brands, and they understood like what my aesthetic is, what I usually preach to my audience, and it was just such a good fit. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, a shift we've seen on our side of things as well, where, and we hope to see it even more from brands, is really remembering that it's people you're working with. And that's, you know, how this whole thing started. It was very creative. It was, we want to work with the best photographers, and the imagery was so important. And then once analytics and numbers became everything, it was kind of like you just look at an Excel spreadsheet and pick, like, you know, the highest numbers and not the person. And I think that's, you know, a big shift we want to see it going back to, is remember who you're partnering with and what matters to them. There's nothing worse than when you guys get a creative deck and you're like, this is not even remotely aligned with who I am. Like, did you look at my Instagram? Yeah. So I think that it's really interesting to kind of see that shift a little bit backwards now. But moving on, I guess, what are some effective changes we've seen in the way that brands are reaching out to you this year versus last year?
I think as far as brands that are reaching out to me, especially they're conscious more, and I'm saying like fashion and beauty brands are, you know, they'll have a conscious line, and then they'll have a kind of like a goals of like 2030 we're going to reduce our plastic, like all this stuff. And I love seeing that. That really makes me happy, because you know, with everything that we have going on, it's like it starts with us, right? It starts with influencers. It starts with our own everyday kind of like actions. And so yeah, I love seeing that, and I love seeing my influencer friends kind of just like asking questions. You know what I mean? And then even doing research on their own, and just like, you know, it's a time where I think that shift is going to be more an education for everyone, because everyone's very curious now.
Yeah. Kay, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's definitely been a lot more transparency. I think that honestly, like we are definitely really taking steps in the right direction, just as a society and as a community as a whole. It's really great to see brands really reaching out and asking for like my voice on things, and they reach out asking about things that every single person deals with, like, oh, what's your take on self-care and mental health? And these are such things that are so important, and are even more important than just like taking a pretty picture and posting it. Like, I want to be able to share the things that really matter, that all of us like are dealing with or struggling with, or, you know, challenges that we face that make us human. So I think that it's been really exciting to see that there's like even more depth in this industry, and it continues to get more that way, like year over year. So I think it's been great. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, like, Anthony, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say that I feel like the outreach has been a little bit more specific. I feel like brands that have out have been more researched in what I've been doing, what I've been posting. So they come with specific requests that align with, for example, the thing I've been doing with the mask fund. A lot of people are trying to put that in. So it shows that they're paying attention, and that makes me feel valued as a creator, and they know what I stand for and how we can kind of incorporate it into the next project.
Definitely. I mean, I think even when I see, you guys pass along these emails, there's such a marked difference between seeing, hi, send me your Instagram story, we want to work with you, like send me your analytics, what's your rate? Like, okay, cool. This was like clearly copy and pasted to anybody versus, hi Sonia, I love your initiative on this or whatever. And that's how real people talk. It should be a conversation. This doesn't need to be so transactional and robotic. So I think that's, a big thing I've seen, change in the past years or so. But for each of you, I'd love to know, like, what makes a really meaningful brand influencer relationship? Anthony, I know you work with some really amazing fashion brands like DKNY and Theory. What makes that a meaningful relationship for you?
Well, I actually did a post with DKNY this week. And one of the things I loved about them was everything had strong messaging. Like a lot of it was about state of mind. So I feel like that relationship, and we've worked together in the past, so they keep coming back. And that relationship and knowing that it's a campaign not just about clothing, but that has a message and a purpose behind it. That's something that really resonates with me and my followers, and that's usually how I like to work with a brand. So that's been good. And I've also done like other bigger projects, and where the brand has said it themselves, like, it's not about followers. For us, we want people that are an organic fit. And it's the person they are, making sure that they embody the brand, and their aesthetic also, because it's fashion, aligns with the brands. So just being a fit and having a message is, those are the most important things for me.
Yeah, I think that's how you get that repeat business. And, Kay, I feel like we've worked with Pantene a lot for you and a lot of other beauty brands. What makes that a meaningful relationship for you?
I love when brands approach me and they actually want to hear more of like a story, and they want me to share my voice. And I feel like the brands that I've worked with a lot of the time like ask for that, and that's like very exciting to me, because I feel like I like it to be such like a really good symbiotic relationship where there's like really good synergy. We have the same values. We want to like share those same values and like the positive messages. I feel like that's been so important. And that's like really where my focus is when I look to work with brands. It's like brands that actually like, okay, well, you are a person, and like we are like individuals. We all have our different values and like what we believe in, like share that. We want to hear your story. So I think that's been really impactful.
Yeah. And, Sonia, I think for you, like the amount of panels you've spoken on for H&M or for G-Star, that, to me, those are probably some of your more meaningful ones. But, what do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think getting the information out there, and the brands that actually, because I've pitched those brands those ideas.
Exactly.
And them resonating with that. I do a lot of panels for the event as well. And so when I tell brands that like this is my passion, I mean, we talked about public speaking every year that I've worked with we've kind of just like kind of encompassed like what we're gonna do for that year. And at the end of 2019, I told you I wanted to do more panels. I wanted to kind of like get the voice out there, get the education out there. So obviously we're working on like a couple other things that will come out soon. So just them being open to hearing that and actually coming back, going to their team and being like, hey, we should actually like a panel on X, Y, and Z and talk about this, that, and the other, and then them producing it and coming back to me and being like, oh yeah, like we want you to work on this. It gets me really excited because I know that they care about the messaging and what I'm doing and what I'm working on.
Yeah. And I guess on the follower side, how do you keep meaningful relationships with your followers?
I think engaging.
Go ahead.
I think engaging with them, you know what I mean? Because they're real people too. As we work with brands, our followers are also they're there. You know, like I had this interesting conversation the other day. I'm a registered Democrat, and I had an interesting conversation with a Trump supporter, and I was like, I'm just really curious, like what your views are. And she's like, oh, I'm not trying to like argue or anything. I'm like, I'm not even arguing. I just love to know like what that looks like, you know? And so we had this great conversation, and she still follows me and I still follow her. No, I don't follow her, but like, you know what I mean? Like I still talk to her, and she, I think originally, you know, people started following me for the style and this and that. When the messaging kind of shift, some people were just interested in style, and some people wanted to know more about like what's going on in fashion and in politics. So
Julie is wanting some attention right now. Also,
you know, this girl is very needy. You know?
Yes. Kay, how do you interact with your followers?
Sure. I think that all relationships, so the brand to influencer, influencer to followers, I feel like they're kind of all the same. I think in any relationship, you want to be able to draw value from each other. You want to be able to like mutually benefit from each other. So whenever I am creating content and sharing things, like I don't just selfishly put the information out there. I like try to ask for feedback. A lot of the times, like I'll ask my people who read my blog questions like, what would you do? Give me recommendations. What are things that I need to try? What are things that I need to do? And and I feel like it's so great because then that's how we both grow and learn together. Being open and really realizing that it is a relationship, so it is two ways. And
yeah. And Anthony, what about you and your follower base?
Yeah, I think it's really important because our followers are what allow us to do what we do. So we have to kind of give back to them. I'm pretty active in my DMs. I try to answer all the questions. And when people show love on their posts, or if it's someone that keeps commenting, I'll show love on their posts. And like that really makes people's day, just to know that you're thinking of them and reaching out to them. I do where I ask followers, like, what kind of content do you want to see? So stuff like that, just being engaged on a daily basis and just kind of connecting. Some of my followers you talk to a little bit more often in DMs. I'm sure you guys too have those followers that, you know, you kind of feel like a personal connection with. So it's nice to have those chats like outside of your posts and just kind of talk about life and stuff. And
Exactly. I mean, you guys are all real people too. And I think that's, you know, the mystique of the influencer, you know, with all the followers, it feels like this celebrity you're talking to. And like, you know, I remember before I worked with you guys and before I was even in this space, getting an influencer to comment or like something or a brand, it's like, oh my God, they liked what I did or they commented back to me. It was so exciting. So, you know, I think it's really important to develop those relationships and make people feel like they can ask you more questions. But yeah, on that note, we do have a question from our audience, which is, what is your biggest turnoff from a brand? I think that's a great question.
Turn off or turn on?
Turn off.
I think
that would be a great question, though.
I would definitely say a brand that does not like share similar values to me. Like I love to just like partner with brands that I feel a connection to. Like, this is me, you know, we fit together perfectly like a puzzle piece. Like, we don't have to force anything. So I think the biggest turnoff is like, you know, if we just don't share the same values, that would just like not align with what I believe in. And obviously I want to be authentic. I want to be myself all the time. So I think that's really, really important.
I feel like for me, it's like communication off the bat. If you're sending a generic email, it just shows that like
you can
I'm not even get to know what the brand is about because I'm not even reading it. I feel like make it personal, learn how to communicate, and don't devalue what we're creating and saying like, oh, it's only worth this much amount without really understanding the work that goes into it. So
right.
I think the key for me with brands is building relationships, and like brands that don't want to do that, I don't understand it, and I just don't like it. You know, brands that are just like, oh, do the content, bye. Like, I want to know more about the people there at the company, and I want to build relationships with these people, you know. It's like, so that's important for me. And when people don't get that, maybe it's like an internal thing, I don't know, but when people don't understand that, I'm just like, it doesn't make me feel good.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I think that's just all, you know, very true. Even I get turned off by brands as the manager, just like, you clearly don't get this person. You don't want to have a conversation that's meaningful. You know, I feel like I take my email writing with so much pride. It's very important to me that you have voice and you showcase compassion. And when it's just two robots talking to each other, that's no fun for anybody. You know, we live in a world right now that's very virtual. We can only really do calls or email. We can't do these in-person connections. And that used to be a really big sales point for, I think, for you guys and for managers, you know, making sure we had that in-person connection. And now that we're missing that, we need to make sure we're still being thoughtful in our emails. So I'm going to answer that question as well, but that's my biggest turnoff, is just not being able to have a real discussion with someone. And also after you do talk to somebody and we've worked on a whole project and I reach back out to you and don't hear back unless it's when you need something, that can be really frustrating and feel like, okay, this is a one-sided relationship. So I'm sure that must be hard for you guys too. It's like, I've worked with this brand, I've done so much for you, and now when I'm coming to you with a concept, I don't even get a response. That's, you know, that can be very hard to
Yeah,
handle.
I think it circles back to like communication on both sides, and brand side. You know, like, what's the disconnect, and would a CEO really want an employee that's not communicating with other people in that kind of that kind of capacity? Because what's lacking in other parts of their communication in-house? Right.
Exactly. Well, I just want to let we've got some more questions here. I should look at these while we're in our last like 10-ish minutes. So another question is, what is your willingness to work with brands who are not able to compensate? Is product and clothing enough of an incentive? I think this is a very relevant question right now. Kay, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think it depends. It's like a case by case situation. There have been brands that I've chosen to partner with that had a bigger cause that they were trying to further. And honestly, like, one of my biggest passions is giving back. So there are brands that come to me and they're like, oh, we really want to partner to do something cool and give back or something like that. And those are, you know, for me, that's something that it's a no-brainer. Like, I want to be able to do that. So I think it just depends on like what exactly is your end goal with it? What is your, like, what are you looking to achieve? And kind of just go from there. So I feel like it's a case by case basis on, like, you know, whether, you know, receiving like just gifts or something in exchange for work. You know, I think it just depends on the brand and the goal and all of that.
Yeah. Anthony, what about you?
Pretty much the same thing. A lot of times brands reach out with charity initiatives, and obviously a lot of them are unpaid. And if it's something I support organically on my own, like, you know, I'm more than happy to, you know, promote the product, which raises funds to support whatever charity initiative it is. So things like that that I'm already doing on my own, I think it's an easy tie-in to just help out a brand, especially if it's a cause you believe in. And the other side of it too, sometimes, like, and from a purely materialistic standpoint, if it's a brand you've been dying to work with, some luxury brand, and they're going to give you something like super chic.
When you get Louis Vuitton reaching out, I'll be like, sure, do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I mean, I think there's another question here that's how do you feel when it comes to budget discussions? Are you offended when a brand can't meet your rate? And what's the best way that brands can approach this? I think especially for younger and smaller growing brands who, you know, maybe aren't as established as the P&G brands of the world, who seem to have this unlimited marketing budget. You know, what do you do there?
I think for me, if a brand doesn't have the full budget, then I would like to tie it into some charity that I'm working with and see how we can help, like, the children or something like that. And we've done that in the past, which has been working great. So it's like, it benefits the brand, it benefits, you know, obviously myself and my charities that I work with. So.
Yeah, I think that that makes sense. And then another question on, you know, kind of newer and younger brands. Would you partner with a new brand as readily as a big established brand? How do you go about that?
Absolutely. I think once
Mm-hmm.
again, just going back to what are your values, what's your mission statement, what's your purpose, does it align? If it is a great fit, then why not? You know, like just from an authentic standpoint, if a brand has something really cool or initiative that they're looking to, you know, donate to, or they even have like a really good mission statement where they're encouraging like body positivity or something, you know, like that, or even like self-care, like these are all things that I would be excited to work on. So it would just depend on like, you know, what are we really trying to achieve out of this partnership.
Right. And I think, you know, we kind of touched on this, but when do you guys decide when you want to work on anything that's unpaid? You know, like Sonia in particular, I know with like H&M, you've worked on both unpaid and paid things. And when do you make that decision of when it's okay and when it's like, okay, this, you know, I've got to also pay for rent. Can't pay for that in my bags that I'm getting.
That also comes in with like pitching, right? So
Right.
knowing what the brand's working on, knowing what I'm working on, and aligning with a kind of campaign that works for both. So if they're like, oh, we have a trip to go to a retreat, like that's cool, that sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, we end up doing something for conscious, you know, like later on. And so,
Right.
or something, you know, that aligns with Climate Week or something like that. So, and it goes again back to like communications with brands. And so, yeah, it really depends. And for brands to want to ask us, like, clothing doesn't necessarily pay the rent and the bills.
Right.
This is our full-time.
Only it did.
Right. I mean, I'd love to pay, you know what I mean? Hey, landlord, here's like a pair of jeans that are like so cute.
We're good, right?
Yeah, but it's like, would that brand want me, like if I was their supplier, be like, hey, for the first round, you know, like you need to just have this for free, or like, you know.
Right. And I think
like
it's,
that.
you know, it's the cost the brand might be putting in. So say they're taking you, you know, to a concert, you might be like, okay, I understand. This is like a fun thing. We're building this relationship, but you know, then if you need me to promote something specifically and it's just gifting me something, that might be our differentiating line.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're bloggers. We love experiences. I mean, somebody sends me some you know, beautiful gifting package that I'm like, oh my God, I have to put this on Insta stories. It's so damn cute. So it's just, yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, and speaking of experiences, I think that moves into two other questions we have here. Currently and in the future, will you want to interact with brands at in real life events, or do you prefer virtual events now that we've been doing these?
Oh my gosh, in person, please.
Yeah.
Whenever we can get
all miss
to
that
hang out
connection.
again. Yes, like I feel like I've been indoors for so long. So being able to interact in person would be amazing again. Virtually has been great, but I can't wait to see people again.
I mean,
and have meetings.
I did that collaboration with Saks the other day, and I was in store, and I literally was like, it smells so good in here, you know, and just like, yeah, we miss people.
Yes.
Human interaction. That was like the human interaction being in this position is like, that was what we made our entire business off of. And so getting back to that, we love it. We love it.
I love that you guys are going with all the people things, because, you know, I think what I also miss about the events is just the fun surprises of like, okay, what artist is going to perform, or there's a magician in this corner, you know, like I those fun things are definitely something I miss. Yeah. And I think moving on to, there's a few questions about measuring success of a partnership that I think is very interesting, but what do you look at the end of a partnership to evaluate if something was successful?
The feeling.
Interesting.
You know, like the feeling, like, did that feel good? Did you feel good? Did they feel good? You know, I go off of feelings.
What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like a lot of times when you're super busy, you kind of just move on to the next. Sometimes you don't stop and think, but when you finish a project that feels good, you've communicated with the brand, you like what you've created, I think, like Fanya said, it's definitely the feeling of accomplishment and success. So I'd have to say this.
Yeah. And Kay?
I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm going to double down and say what you guys said, the feeling, and also just like feeling that I got value out of it, they got value out of it, and the desire to continue the relationship. That's always great. When it ends, it's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, we're trying to build relationships with each other. So, you know, at the end, I hope that's not the last time, especially if it feels great. So.
Right. And how do you feel like something maybe isn't successful? How would you look at a partnership and be like, oh, that was a bit of a headache. Maybe you don't want to do that one again.
Maybe
where there's like a lack of communication
yeah.
between there's like where communication is like really hard and difficult, and yeah, that's like usually not good.
Yeah, we had, I won't name the name of the brand, but we had this collaboration. Yeah, we had this collaboration for holiday, and one of the like the PR people dropped the ball on the job, and the job just like the brand was messaging me like, hey, what happened, like blah blah blah. I'm like, I never got the product, and I never, you know, so it's just like that didn't make me feel well, and I'm like, am I gonna work with this brand again?
Right.
Because like they were really nice and really awesome, and it's just like one person that was like a kind of like a broker in between us kind of dropped the ball, and it just like that didn't sit, and it still doesn't sit well. Becky, you know the brand, so.
Yeah. Anthony, anything else to add?
I pretty much agree. I'm trying to think back, but I feel like I've blocked out those bad memories in my head.
Right,
but...
block them out.
Yeah.
What about draft revisions, and when that can get maybe a little bit longer than you're expecting?
Yeah, if it takes too long, or if it's a little too nitpicky, or they want things, or trying to sneak things in at the last minute, I think that's definitely not something that's fair, and not something that's fun to deal with, especially as a content creator. So.
Yeah, we want to make our brands happy, you know, but also we want to be happy in the process of doing it. As a creative, I feel like we always have to kind of feel a sense of just like that you are, you know, like you're feeling good to create that like authentic, beautiful imagery. You have to feel good about it, and
because you're not just ad space they're buying. You are a person they're investing in, and you want to feel like this is a mutual relationship, and not just, okay, you've got this following, I need you to do whatever it is. So I think that's a good point. And you know, back in the day, there were no such thing as creative briefs. It was whatever you wanted, and then it became a little bit more. And you know, it's when it's the hand a little too heavy, but also respecting that a brand needs to meet certain KPIs. It's really that finicky part.
I mean, I've had brands that have come to me with the most insane creative project, and it literally gives me life. Like I'm just like, oh, I hired the most epic team, and maybe the budget's not like up to par, or it's not that great, but just feeling creative.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. I get that. I think this is a good sustainability question, actually. But how do you feel about product mailers? Is it getting too much due to the lack of in-person events? And how can brands be more creative during this period?
I think they could ask us. Like they could ask us, hey, I have this campaign launch coming up. Would you be interested in receiving this? Instead of just blindly sending things out, because it's a lot of trash. It's a lot of boxes of waste, and you know, maybe the brand doesn't even align with you, and it's just
Yeah. One thing I've actually found really cool that some brands have been doing are like Zoom calls. And they would like do Zoom calls, and like we'd be able to do something interactive together, like group facial, group workout things, or group baking. And I feel like that's another way to kind of like, that's super creative, where you can, you know, feel good and have fun, and it isn't necessarily so much waste. So that's always fun too.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of beauty brands, you know, do like, they'll bring in a makeup artist, you know, learn like a fun tutorial together, and that feels slightly more interactive, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we do have a final question, which I think, you know, relates to this as well, is, but what do you want events to look like during COVID? While, you know, we don't have as many options, what is working?
Working out and dancing, like, you know, having fun. Like the videos are like fun, and they like send you an outfit, and they're like, we're gonna do workout class. I'm like, oh, awesome. We're gonna dance and just have a good time. Sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Anthony?
Oh, I was gonna say, I actually went to one of my first live events just this week. and it was really smartly done. They had to like get the permission of the city and have like filled out. It was an outdoor event. It was actually like a seated dinner. It was or a seated lunch. It was a really long table. Chairs were measured 6 feet apart. It was open air. Everyone had masks on. They had hand sanitizer.
Nice.
And I just thought like I was excited to go. I was like, oh my God, my first in-person event. I was a little nervous too. You know, I think I'm a little bit more paranoid about the pandemic than some other people, but for me to go and actually feel safe, it was really
right.
fun experience. So I think there are ways, as long as you follow proper protocol and just keep everything safe. So
I've seen events where people have to get tested before and after and submit their results. I think there's definitely a way to accomplish it where you might want some sort of in-person interaction. So yeah, Kay, do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, similarly to what Anthony said, like outdoor events, those are really good. Like lots of hand sanitizer. But honestly, like just being out and around people is a good feeling. You just have to wear your masks and stuff. So I feel like that's really good.
Definitely. Yeah, well, this was a great discussion today. We're wrapping it up now. We're on those last final minutes. It was really great to hear, you know, this changing landscape and what you guys have done to maybe shift with the times and, you know, what you look forward to and what's working and what's not working. But I hope that everyone joining us found this very helpful and useful. And yeah, I guess that's it for today. So thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
yeah.
All right.